But as the grid begins to assemble here now, we have Steve Tandy there on pole, and alongside him Sean Lynn, father of Alex Lynn, very much a contemporary racer and a great star both at Le Mans and Formula E, of course, Alex. Mark Higson, who used to race a Formula One car with in Masters, one of those Formula One marches, 761, and Mark Higson in third position in an Orica LMP2 car, just in front of David Bryce, his starting car number 65, car he shares with Alan Perdrick. They have a race again tomorrow, so that's why they David Bryce is in a Lola. That's the Lola closed car there, which you see alongside them, out on fourth place, and just behind them and just pulling onto the grid is Mike Newton in the MG Lola. Go on.
Yeah, for the, what was called a very lightweight 675 Big 4 LMP2, and this is a car that raced in period at Le Mans, and Mike has always held on to it. It's got 2 or 3 of the cars that were raced by MG and run by Ray Mallock, and Ray Mallock's team manager, old team manager Phil Barker is down there. Alan Jakeman, who prepared the car in period, is down there with it, and Mike, who in the I think mini camera business, something like that.
Yes.
And he still goes quickly. It's funny guy. Mike was one of those gentleman drivers. Tommy Erdos used to mainly race the car with him, and depending on
Andy Wallace drove with them as well.
Andy Wallace drove with him, yes. And sometimes Mike Newton could be only 1 or 2 seconds just slower than him around Le Mans. But I think Phil told me once, it depends how much business is going. If Mike Newton had done a lot of business and been out to a lot of business lunches and stuff, he slowed down because his weight went up, and then he got himself together again. It's a nice little story. Now there, the car in front of your screen there is a very interesting machine. In fact, 5 of these cars have been built and bought. That's the BR, and that's an LMP2 car, but that is running the Nissan engine. Of course, in LMP2 these days, cars look just the same, but they have to run the Gibson engine. And these were cars designed by Paolo Catoni, who designed the Peugeot that won Le Mans and so on. And
SMP Racing, very much the Russian racing team.
And these are being run, they were bought by Bob Berridge, the guy who also bought that group of Peugeots from 12 years ago, the Le Mans cars, and Bob likes to deal in these things. Bob's just down there now, and the BR is for Boris Rostenberg, who is the Russian who funded the SMP racing. Of course, him and his brother own SMP Bank, and they also own a lot of oil pipelines and things like that. Well, that car was raced in period by Miko Alashin, who's Russian, who went on to race in IndyCar. Here you see the start grid, and Steve Tandy, Sean Lynn on the front row of the grid. Mark Higson is in third place there
in the Orica,
and
it will be David Bryce starting this car.
And that's a very good. That's an Orica. There's a lot of those LMP Oricas around. That one was from the Thierry team. Was one of the top teams in the European Le Mans series.
And that car that says Chris Atkins and Greg Thornton is being driven in this race by Greg Thornton, who was himself a Masters Historic Formula One champion not so long ago in a JPS Lotus. Richard Cook there in car in 7th place on the grid. Richard is in the Riley and Scott Mark 3C. And Andrew, you've watched them racing those cars in their heyday in IMSA. The big open white car, which we'll see the safety car leading them round now, but that was an impressive car in its day, wasn't it? The Riley and Scott.
Riley and Scott. I mean, it's a huge company, Riley and Scott, these days. And Bob and Bill Riley, who worked with Mark Scott, who's actually been a mechanic for James Hunt back in the day.
That takes you
McLaren, the M23 we saw there, and he's not involved in the company anymore. It's now called Riley Engineering, but that's an absolute classic sort of sports car for the American Le Mans series. That's what's nice about this. I mean, they did race those cars at Le Mans also. Great big wing on the back of it. Look, that's the white car with the 2 purple stripes down the middle of it.
Then we have an LMP3 Ligier, which
Yeah.
actually belongs to Ron Maiden, the president of Masters. And of course, another feature is as correctly in period, Andrew.
Yeah.
We have some nice GT cars.
Yeah.
And among those nice GT cars is Colin Payton is actually driving the 124, car number 124, the Mosler. But their Ferrari at the back, their 458 GT3 car driven by Colin Sauter, is 13th on the grid. Colin Payton in the Mosler was 14th on the grid, but I mean also in there you will see Richard Mines, very well-known racer, raced all sorts of cars, and he had a McLaren M23 Formula One car at one stage, and Richard Mines also had all the Beatrice Haas Lolas as well, those turbo cars. But he's in the aquamarine and black Aston Martin there.
Yeah, there it is in the German.
Yes, the famous Vitaphone.
Yes,
sponsorship colours of that period. Richard, I think, was the fastest GT car in a 1 minute 30.573 lap, which is a respectable lap time around here, when Steve Tandy was doing a 1:23. So the MSV grid is being formed up behind them. It will be also a rolling start.
Well, I should be surprised if there's much opposition to Tandy here, because he's a very competitive driver in a supercar, well prepared, and off they go towards Paddock Hill Bend, and Tandy certainly keeps to the inside there and defends well, and will then dive down the hill and will start to pull away, I suspect, and everybody else seems to have gone round there nicely, lights blazing, look, and jockeying for positions. It's Mike Newton going a little bit wide in the LMP 675 Lola MG, driven in period by the likes of, well, Anthony Reid comes to mind.
Yes.
And I mean, there was a suggestion that formula, they could challenge the Audi R8s, but unfortunately were just too fragile back, 15, 18 years ago.
Yes.
And they were very quick, those LMP 675s. I mean, that's the weight, 675 kilos.
Well, they were indeed, and Rose, I mean, I was lucky enough to be involved at Lola at the time, and the factory cars in the green and black were very, very impressive. A Frank Durney, Ben Bowlby designed car. The AER little 2-litre turbo engine wasn't the most reliable. Just there on the Porsche, looking quite bold, is Marcus Jewell in that Porsche 996 RSR, very appropriate for the period.
What we didn't say, we've got two of the BRs in here, haven't we? We've got Sean Lynn. Have we not got a second one? I thought.
No,
there was a second one. Maybe that was the spare they had in the.
That was a spare in the garage, I think. Yes, bringing a spare. Why not?
As I said, Bob Berry bought 5 of them.
Yes, that's right. Well, he is inclined to do that, but he also bought a bunch of Peugeots, didn't he? Yeah. Yeah. Everyone having a little. They're moving quickly there.
Yeah. There's that Thierry. That, as I said, car very successfully in the LMP, in the European Le Mans series, because now they have to have a cockpit, they have to have an enclosed cockpit in LMP2, but they didn't originally, and there was a period when both raced together.
And that's Mike Furness, I think, is it not, in the Courage LC75?
Yeah. There's Mike Newton. I think he might be moving up.
Yeah, I think he's been a little bit held up there. What's happened to the Riley and Scott? I haven't seen where that big white car has gone with its big white wing.
I think it's still there, Chris.
Yeah, look, Mike Newton having a look.
He dropped a place, so he's trying to get that place back. So Tandy already 1.3 seconds at the lead from Sean, son of Alex Lynn. Well, father of Alex Lynn, I should say.
So I think what's showing on our scorecard as ATK Atkinson is in fact Thornton.
Yes.
It is Greg Thornton, as we were saying at the moment. Sorry, that was slightly confusing me. That's in car number 8, and they are currently lying, well, Greg Thornton is lying in 5th place. So the order is Tandy from Sean Lynn, from Mark Hidson, then it's David Bryce in the Lola, and then it comes to Mike Newton and Greg Thornton battling away. Car number 65. It's a good-looking car, that David Bryce's car.
It certainly is.
Lying in the 4th place. I was always very proud of the connection with Lola. They built beautiful cars, and Martin Birain really the driving force behind the revival of the marque from 1998 onwards. And we had a strong team of people there with us, people like Ben Bowlby and Frank Durney, of course, as well. And
of course, now that market, which was such a British market for so long, is ruled by the French.
Yes.
With two manufacturers, Orica and of course Ligier, based at Le Mans.
Ligier doing,
and then there's still a Dallara chassis as well. I think 4 manufacturers are allowed, aren't they? I'd never understood that. Why stop people building race cars for a category if they want to? If they're going to lose money, hard luck. But,
yes, that's
right. I just don't get it, really. I think that's probably what, to a degree, stopped the BRs, because they then moved on to LMP1 with the Russian backing, of course, and then in the WEC, and they're now pulled out of that. Well, here is Tate. It looks absolutely beautiful.
Tandy's car, and that's a proper handful too, isn't it? I mean, it is very nicely developed, but that is an extremely powerful car. He's just gone purple all sectors there. He's done a 1 minute 25.449, and that he is pulling away rapidly. But that is really a very, very special race car, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit, Andrew, then about the history of the car, in as much as it was, as you say, run by a very well-known American racing family, the Dysons.
Yeah, Rob Dyson, the father, raced Porsche 962s. Chris Dyson, his son, was part of the team. He now races in Trans Am Series very successfully, does Chris. And the Dyson business was called Thetford. And what did Thetford do?
I think they did cooling and radio, did they not?
Well, they actually made toilets for motorhomes and caravans.
Well, there you go.
Just going through, he's got through.
Well done.
That's a good battle going on with
Mark Hickson there, and that
a huge business, by the way. I mean, sort of dominated that market. Super bloke, Rob Dyson, huge enthusiast, and of course people like Guy Smith, Andy Wallace. These are the people racing. Johnny Merlin did a few races for them.
Famously for many years.
And James Weaver. Weaver and Wallace were the big pairing for a long time, hugely successful.
And when Rob Dyson first backed James Weaver, they ran an IndyCar.
Yes, they did.
They ran, well, Champ Car as it was then. But it's really good to see these Le Mans type cars. Oh, hello, we got a pit entry here.
Yeah, that's a problem, isn't it?
A little bit of a problem. But Mike Newton driving very nicely. The car Mark Hickson is driving here, which is qualified third and is running in 5th place now, is prepared by 9W Race Engineering, who also prepare Formula One cars down at Stockbridge in Hampshire. And this is, as you were saying, the ex-Thierry car, run very well by the TDS team, both in the European Le Mans Series and in the World Championship.
And Thierry, big in ice cream.
Big in ice cream.
Well, and food distribution in France, right. They're big in ice cream.
A French equivalent of beach tea, perhaps. Yeah. But it is lovely to see the MG Lola going so well there. Martin Bourrain was always very keen, always used to amuse me. You had the same trouble, I know, in the Le Mans commentary box. If you said MG Lola, he'd want you to say Lola MG. And then, of course, when they built those wonderful Aston Martin engine prototypes at Lola, 1 year at Le Mans, Martin made a special point of coming up to the commentary position about midnight in order to remind me I should be saying Lola Aston Martin rather than Aston Martin Lola, which was, of course, those wonderful cars in Gulf colours with the huge V12
But
engine.
usually in this championship we see one of those, don't we, with a Belgian beer magnet in.
Yes, absolutely. And Christoph Dansenberg. Christoph Dansenberg.
He usually has a big battle with Tandy.
Is another one who couldn't make it here, sadly. Nice to see the Ferrari and the Mosler hard at it.
Mosler could be a road car. Martin Short was involved in those very successfully, of course, in the UK. Mosler raced mainly in the Grand Am series, as opposed to IMSA. There was 2 rival sports car groups in America at that time, which was kind of mad.
But Mosler did make and sell some cars, didn't they?
Yeah, road cars as well. There's a big Chevy engine in the back of it.
Nice to see this little Lola here, rather earlier Lola, this one, the B2K40 it was called.
Very successful they were.
I've got a feeling that I actually sold that car to the team Nighthawk Racing.
Well, it says on it, on the roll cage I saw.
Well, there you go. Racing. There's a a wonderful man who was with Lola for many years, Nick Jordan, one of the
yes,
great
I
race
remember,
engineers. Oy, try not to cut each other's nose off. And Nick and I used to beat the paths around the United States selling sports cars to people, and sold cars to Dyson as well.
Yeah.
But that little car there had just the little, it just had the little 2-litre Nissan engine in it, didn't it? And they ran in what was called SR2.
SR2, yes.
That was the class,
and,
yes.
They had it. That was a Grand Am class, and he won the class at Daytona 24 with Andy Lally at the wheel, I remember.
And the Canadians won a class at Le Mans in SR2 as well. Anyway, he's finally managed to get past the Porsche.
I was just trying to think the name of the lady driver who raced successfully in one of those. Certainly Liz Halliday raced a car like that, but it was a Venezuelan.
Yes.
Her name will come to me.
Milka Duno.
Milka Duno tried to qualify for Le Mans, the Indianapolis 500 a couple of times.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Venezuelan, that's right.
Yes.
And Andy Wallace shared a car with her in American racing for some time.
She was enhanced.
Yes. Moving on. Steve Tandy's still out in the lead.
Yeah, we would have expected a nice battle though between the motor and the Ferrari. Look at that, absolutely side by side.
The Ferrari being driven by Colin Sauter,
yes.
and it's just a beautiful car. That the 458 GT3 car number 126. A, it looks right. B, it sounds absolutely fantastic. And of course, the 458 was a class winner at Le Mans again and again, up against Aston, Chevrolet, Porsche, BMW. That was a great heyday of the class, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
I think the little Courage has come back out again, hasn't it? That went into the pits. I think he's come back out again.
One thing we're missing that we often have in these races are cars from the LMPC category that has raced a lot in America. Well, it started as obviously European Championship, didn't it? We don't have any of those today, but we often do.
We have one LMP3 Ligier in the form of Ron Maiden's own car, which he has just acquired. He told me all he's done with it is run it once. Oh dear, oh dear. Now I'm afraid we have definitely got a retirement there. I think that's Greg Thornton.
I think that is Greg's car,
and that's the car he was to share with Chris Atkinson tomorrow, so we hope we get it sorted so they can run tomorrow. This is a mini endurance race, as it should be, and we're 12 or so minutes into it.
We're sort of a third of the way through at the moment.
And it's nice to see that now the little Loda's decided to get on with it. I think he was feeling a bit trapped by the GT3 cars. Oh,
a 17 Porsche.
Well.
Wow. We wouldn't expect that, would we?
Now, why's he come in? Let's follow him down and just see what the issue is. That's Marcus Jewell, the car he was to share with Ben Klukas, the 996 RSR. Very nicely prepared car. Oh, he's got to stop and go. He's got to stop and go.
Ben Klukas, a professional driver with a long career. He was actually a Toyota factory driver for a while with the young driver scheme Toyota had.
Yes, indeed.
Brought on Ryan Briscoe, for instance. Klukas was part of that. He's raced all over the world. He's been an Australian Formula 3 champion. He's raced in places like Japan. 4 or 5 seasons ago, he was racing in the touring car series for the factory Kia team in America. He's got a massive career. I think he's won the Silverstone 24 Hours of Brick Car event.
Oh, really?
So he's a professional racing driver with a long career as Ben Klukas. But I'm not sure, he's not driving today. Maybe he's going to drive it
it's certainly Marcus Jewell today. And that's the nice thing about the format that Masters have given these cars. If you get, oh, no, please don't try and hang on to Steve through there.
Nice looking car, that motor, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, big Chevy motor in the back. Warren Mosler, the man who produced them. I'm going to say Martin Short, very successful with the motor. Bright green one, if you remember, racing in the UK.
Yes,
the Ferrari going through.
I'd forgotten, just what a huge wing that was on the back of it. And then if you notice, the rear wing is an Australian flag. I'm not sure if that is...
There's a Lynn just going through in that
Now, Sean Lynn is now less than 6 seconds behind Steve Tandy. I'm not sure if Steve Tandy's slowed considerably.
I was thinking Steve's playing with him. He's just...
I suspect that there's an element of that, but Lynn has just done a 25.6 and Steve Tandy's just done a 27.3.
What were you doing in practice, Chris?
And Steve did a 123. Yeah. They both did a 123 in practice. Nice to see that little Lola.
Yeah.
And it is definitely, that was the paint scheme I recall with the US flag on it for
It was
Night
interesting
Racing.
because the team were well known, Root Racing, for running Porsches. And I do think that's who when Lally won at Daytona in the class.
Andy
got
Lally.
One of the first, is it 6 or 7 watches he's won. Great character, Andy Lally, by the way. I think that's a car. I'm not 100% sure, but it was certainly a sister car that built at a similar time. That Lola still looks great, doesn't it?
And he's not hanging around.
Interesting to hear him say that he'd brought Pete Weston in to help him engineer the car, because in the days of heyday of Dyson Racing, Pete was an absolute guru on the pit wall.
And in my time at Lola, Pete Weston was the factory engineer, and he was very much Ben's, if you like, number 2 on the aero. He's a really, really good race engineer, and was always much sought after by the teams who sold the cars to.
But very interesting that Steve Tandy said that he chose to put the Judd engine in, which was offered to the car, but nobody actually took up at the time because of the fuel consumption. You heard him say that. That particularly, he has got a Dyson car, which is for sale, by the way. But this particular car was built up from a tub. Mazda had a program.
Yes.
Am I right that they ran diesel engines in them?
No, they didn't. No. They ran the full Mazda race engine there, which is a really quick
AER
motor.
engine.
Yeah, AER engine.
Well, Chris, I seem to remember the first season with those 2 sort of deep purpley coloured cars. They did run a diesel motor.
Yes.
And it wasn't very successful.
It was not very successful.
No, I'm sure I'm right on that. I'll just have a quick look.
Mazda have announced, haven't they, that they won't be carrying on with their IMSA program next year, which is a real blow to the IMSA series. Yeah. And now, are we going to have a driver swap? Maybe we are going to have a driver swap.
Yeah, maybe we are.
Well, that'd be...
We must have a window then, haven't we?
Yes, I will. You keep going. I'll
I'll
follow my instructions to find out if we have...
So I think Legends races usually do have a pit stop, don't they? But with the programme being shortened, we weren't absolutely sure that was going to happen.
Well, I've also now got news from the pit lane that Greg Thornton in the Orica 09, the number 8 car, has... as we saw, he came into the pits, went out again. No, he had an engine misfire.
Oh, did he? Right,
and they have now retired the car.
Oh, right, okay.
But what we were wondering was...
Well, we're sort of halfway through, so we think this might be a time.
Yeah, this might be a moment. And if you're not changing, what masters normally do in endurance races, if you're not changing, you just have to sit in the pits.
Somebody holds a iPhone, probably, a stopwatch.
That's right.
Yeah. So, well...
I mean,
on the face of it, Sean Lynn is keeping you honest. There was a nice shot in the pits. And just reaching into the cockpit there of the BR, and the Simpson team running that particular car. I thought they were all run by Berridge's BBM organisation. But there's Mike Newton, and still in a battle with the ex-Thierry LMP 2 open-top car.
Mark Higson ran in Masters Formula 1 for a number of years and got quicker and quicker and enjoyed the car very much. And actually his highlight before he sold the car was it was the first car run by Williams.
Oh, big shunt there with the motor.
Dear,
hard into the barrier there. I think that must be Paddock Hill Bend coming down the hill, isn't it? And that's going to bring out more than a yellow flag, I would have thought.
I think that's going to be
And of course, if you're on it, you're going to get in the pits now.
Yes.
You've got to get in the pits now.
Now, that is a great shame because that car, Colin Payton driving that car, was going very nicely. I'm not sure if we be able to see where we went there, but Moser very much, I'm afraid, in, and that's on the outskirts, on the outside of.
Yeah, there he is. He's climbing out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And walks away from it, quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, that, as they say, is not. That's not going to polish out very easily, is it?
No, it wasn't where I thought it was, Chris, was it?
It is just on the outskirts of Clearways.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah.
It's on the outside
a bit
of
further
Clearways.
down than where they normally go in, I think.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's the MSVR
Yeah,
offices
safety
there.
car coming out.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I thought he was going into paddock, but he's not.
And let's just see what Sean Lynn is doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to do a time stop.
Yeah.
So they'll just check the tyres. If you're not doing a driver change, he'll probably want some fresh air in there.
Tandy's doing
Have
another
a
lap.
bottle. The Riley and Scott is
There it
also
is.
having his pit stop. And in fact, the smart thing to do is, if you've got the safety car out, is exactly as you said, Andrew, proper endurance technique. There is the Riley and Scott.
Guy Smith's name on the side of that. Robbie Gordon. Look.
And Scott Sharp.
Scott.
That was a strong driving team, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is yellow flag all the way round under the safety car, and it will take a little while because that car is the Mosler that is embedded, I'm afraid, in the barriers at the outside of Clearways, just in front of the MSVR offices, is going to take a little time to move, I think, because you've got to get the tow vehicle right into there. So the Riley and Scott, I see, all sorts of connections for me there, Andrew, says that's Elan Power, which was Don Paynos's engine company, set up because he got fed up with buying other people's products to run in the famous front-engined Paynos Batmobiles, and so Don Paynos, in the way he always would, decided he was going to do it his way, and he set up a Sean Lynn being given the start it up signal.
Loud or what, those Paynoses?
Well, and those engines were really loud. The Riley and Scott has left the pit lane. Sean Lynn has left the pit lane. Mike Newton and the Ron Maiden LMP3 car have not yet had their pit stops. And Richard Mines has come in for his stop in the Aston Martin GT car, which is leading the GT class and is in fact in 6th place overall at the moment. So the only cars we've lost in the race so far are Colin Payton in the Mosler, which is in the wall, hence the need for the safety car we have at the moment, and Greg Thornton in the Courage, in the Orica 09 car, which has retired with a misfire.
Just talking about the Riley and Scott, they did win the Daytona 24 Hours with Dyson Racing back in 1999 with the EFR, Elliot Forbes Robinson, Butch Leitzinger and Andy Wallace at the wheel, and that was the MK3, but this is MK3C, and I think that might be a slightly later, it's definitely
later car.
Only 2 or 3 years later car. I think the design was effectively the same. So, you know, they have got a good history, the Riley and Scott there. And so nice to see it. And I understand that another one, speaking to Nigel Greensell at Donington, and I think he said they've just rebuilt one.
Andrew, I'm just wondering here, the pace car has just gone out to, but he's not picked up the leader, and as a result, we're going to get a slightly scrambled restart, I think.
See, Tandy, he's in the pits and he's shown as third. I don't think has Mike Newton not been in yet, and Lynn?
Lynn's been in,
well, he's
but
not
Mike
showing
Newton
on
hasn't.
there, is he? On our timing scoring, it's showing Lynn having not. Oh, yes, he's been. He's the outlap. Yes, he's been in.
He's on his outlap.
As we said,
and Tandy is still in the pits.
I think Tandy might have got the strategy a bit wrong here.
Yes. And he's due to start again. Mines has just left in the Aston Martin, and that's a nice shot. Tandy, away he goes. But I think now, because the field is, which is the purpose of the safety car, is bunching up behind the safety car, I think if Lynn's up there, and that's
Tandy will have been
that's not him.
won't he?
Yes.
So we should see a bit of excitement for the. I mean, we got 16
That
minutes
was
left.
That's Bryce's Lola at the back of this lot. Ron
see.
Maiden's LMP3 car is having its pit stop now.
So Tandy's back on course.
Yeah.
Yeah, is this?
That's the Ligier. That's the LMP3 Ligier.
I think that car is still current. I think you can still race one of those.
Absolutely, you can.
LMP3 doing really well at the moment, particularly in the States.
And all around Europe.
Yep.
I mean, it's been a huge success for Ligier. Ligier told me they've sold 110 LMP3 cars around the world.
Wow. All with Nissan engine.
And of course, they have a deal in the States also for their Formula 3, is it called, car?
Yeah, they bought,
which is a joint venture with the American.
They bought the
chassis manufacturer. Crawford. Thank you very much.
Yeah, lovely family, and actually New Zealanders.
But they've been in the States forever.
Max Crawford. Yeah.
Been
there's Mike.
Now, Mike Newton, who was lying in second position, is having his compulsory pit stop now. And I think there's going to be, as you say, Andrew, a bit of a shake-up now because everyone's going to have to catch up. Steve Tandy is shown as, of course, now being on his outlap from the pit stop in third place.
Yeah.
And now he's being shown as in second place, of course, because Mike Newton is held in the pit lane. But Steve is going to have to overtake Sean Lynn. To repeat, Sean Lynn, a noted historic racer and collector. I mean, he has, among other things, a proper Gulf Porsche 917, a proper Ferrari 512M. He has...
must have made a bit of money in the city, I would think.
Yeah, he did. And but his son, Alex, of course, made his own career in motorsport, was the Williams test driver, is now...
Well, I reported on the year when he was racing the European Formula 3 Championship race, so he didn't win it, but...
and he's a Jaguar F3 racer, FE racer, I'm trying to say. He's been an Aston Martin factory Le Mans driver and done the entire World Championship in a top team.
And a very engaging character as well.
He's a really... And interestingly, Motorsport magazine list him as one of the up-and-coming young all-rounders in the world of modern motorsport. So we are going to do another lap behind the safety car, but I think the motor has been moved, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, pleased to see the driver walk away. There's the... now, where is Tandy in the crocodile, though?
Well, I mean, I think
that's the thing.
He's right.
He's got to overtake a lot of people.
He's going to have to overtake a lot of people.
But Sean Lynn have managed to. So the clock's ticking away, isn't it?
Yeah.
So a bit of a cliffhanger here that we didn't expect, and just that Mosler causing it, of course.
There's the Riley and Scott.
Yeah.
Now the Moser is safely behind the barrier.
Yeah.
Well done, the marshals.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard when someone's actually in the barrier like that and to get it back out of the way. And there's a very disconsolate driver just standing there on the outside, being asked some questions by some enthusiastic fans, like, "Why did you do that?"
Well, you go and try and do it, mate, because it's not easy.
It never makes a race driver happy. He was going very nicely, wasn't he? But that's also deprived our friends in the Ferrari 458, Colin Sauter, of the opportunity to have somebody to race with. He's now right back up behind. Oh, is he a lap behind Richard Mines? No, they're both a lap behind the overall leader.
Just seeing that BMW safety car going round, didn't I read that one of them, was it the one from Cadwell Park or something, actually stolen?
Yes.
I mean, you're not going to look anonymous in it, are you?
Well, that's right. I mean, you do sometimes wonder how bright people are. Cadwell Park, the lovely MSV-owned circuit in Lincolnshire's Wolds district, and it's proper rural country. Yeah. And there aren't many cars painted bright purple and white with a flashing bar on the roof. And for someone to have nicked it, I think they got it back quite quickly.
I think they did, didn't they? Yeah.
Lights are out on the safety car.
Still can't see where Tandy is, you see.
Lights are out on the safety car. The safety car's going back in. Again. Stand by. We're going to go back going racing again. And everybody is... now, I think Tandy's right at the back of that lot, Andrew, don't you?
Back of the train, and let's see how quickly he can cut through it.
That's a little embarrassing for the 24 car there. Mike Furness being overtaken under braking into Paddock Hill Bend.
Let's see where the 16 is.
Now, you see, we're now things are beginning to shake out. And where is Mike Newton as well in the lineup here? Now, a lot of these cars have been lapped, so...
now just Tandy at the back of that group, the 23 car brief excursion onto the grass there with
And where
Watts at the wheel.
is that Tandy there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's on the
Yeah, he's got to
inside.
get past the
Aston Martin.
Yeah, which sounds absolutely glorious. I saw it running in practice this morning. Oh, it makes a noise.
And there's Lynn, and there is your leader on the inside there with the dark blue nose.
So,
there, number 27.
So he's got Tandy right behind. Look.
Well, where is Tandy then?
Right
now?
behind him.
Oh yes, so he is. Excellent.
So just the way they were both almost together in the train as it happened. But obviously Lynn jumped Tandy in the pit stops.
Yeah.
But actually in the end, I suspect that Steve will be doing it for Somerset, and we go diving through very quickly.
Now we've got
I mean, there's so much traffic around.
Yeah, he's got
10 minutes left. He's just got to bide his time a little bit. Let them sort themselves out.
And Sean Lynn has dived down the inside of David Bryce, but in a very comparable car.
Yeah.
And now they've got the much slower little baby old Lola.
Yeah.
And Tandy's done him.
Yeah,
done him in the traffic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sean Lynn went the wrong way up against the pit wall, got held up, unwittingly held up by the little Lola SR2 car, and that's given Tandy a chance. Oh, but Lynn's back on him. He's back on him, and he's now being held up. Tandy relatively being held up by the David Bryce Lola, the B0980.
Yeah.
And now he's got past him, and Lynn's got to do the same thing. But Lynn is in the same sort of power category as the Lola. Both LMP2 cars of the period. And so he's got to squeeze past him on the way up to Hawthorns and on to the Derek Minter Straight, which isn't very, and so on to Dingledell, Sheen Curve, and the famous Stirlings, and the return back. There we go, Dingledell up to Sheen Curve, and there he is down the inside. Oh, the Porsche squeezed him out. He didn't mean to, but he didn't have anywhere to go. Well, I tell you what, Andrew, the safety car was very unfortunate for the Mosler, but it certainly brought the field back together, didn't it?
Certainly did. And the sight and sounds of these Le Mans cars, absolutely great as a spectator here to see these.
So much grip when you see what you can do down through Paddock Hill Bend. And Sean Lynn certainly knows how to drive one of these things, but the aero effect, he was just saying earlier on when we were chatting, is dramatic. I mean, he just says it's a wonderful thing to drive. So the order then is now shaken back out again after the safety car period. Steve Tandy leads from Sean Lynn. Mike Newton in the white, blue and red MG Lola is in third place, car number 25, as it was in period, from Mark Hickson in a much newer Orica, car 46 in fourth place. And then we have the Ron Maiden Craig Davis car. I think now with Craig Davis at the wheel, you're looking at that car exactly now, car number 52, which is the LMP3 Ligier, the JSP3 car, being driven very vigorously indeed, and about to be lapped.
This car, with the Dyson team back in the year it was built, 2012, had a huge battle with the Greg Pickett's Muscle Milk team with the ARX, which usually beat them actually.
Yes,
and
indeed.
it was they ran two cars most of the time, the 16 and the 20, and 16 was usually Chris Dyson and Guy Smith at the wheel. That's how this would have run. But as we heard in the interview, they actually ran the AER engine, which was sometimes badged as a Mazda.
Yeah, there we are.
Yeah.
Yes. AER.
A Mazda, but that particular chassis had, I'm sure it had a Mazda diesel in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they looked magnificent, but the engine just didn't make enough horsepower. Run by the Speed Source, put the teeth back in, organisation. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And AER, of course, still very much in business.
Oh, yeah.
There in Essex. And in fact, Nick Jordan, who I was talking about earlier, famous Lola engineer, is still doing some work there. I spoke to him recently on the occasion of his 70th birthday.
Excellent. So, but the Dyson team that year, 2012, they did win the Grand Prix of Baltimore, which is on the streets of Baltimore.
Oh, yes.
And they ran one at Road America as well, where they had a fantastic battle and won literally by about 4 inches against the Greg Pickett car, which I think had Lucas Lure driving for them. I didn't know it was the main driver, but great to see these cars still getting a lot of life, you know, still racing so nicely.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, I do think, Andrew, that it was very astute of the Masters team, Ron Maiden and Rachel Bailey, to have, if you like, spotted the opportunity that there are a lot of cars, and of course, they'll never ever say this, safer in theory, owing to carbon tubs, lots of bodywork and everything else, than putting people in open Formula cars. And I think a lot of guys who have the time now and the money to want to go top-level racing in historics can see the advantage of doing this sort of rather than the Formula One. And both in Europe and in the United States there are obviously a lot of cars, because there's never anything so obsolete as a 5 or 6 year old car.
No, absolutely right.
It's long before it's become historic. It's obsolete, but as a result of Masters creating this, there's a lot of interest building up. As we said, I mean, the grid could have been 10 cars stronger if everyone had been able to come from Europe, of course. But later on in the year, I think people will see just how strong the Masters Endurance Legends grid can be, and people want to race it. And you and I, and everybody else who loves Le Mans, love seeing these cars out there.
Absolutely, yes, And there's a bit more variety back then. You know, the authorities have sort of say, oh, you've got, you know, LMP2, you've got to run the Gibson engine, or you can only have 4 manufacturers, as I said earlier, building that chassis and so on.
And of course now, maybe the top level of current endurance racing is going to change and develop with the arrival of the hypercars. I see Glickenhaus is meant to be running next time out. And Toyota, as usual, have made their wonderful investment and committed to a series, as they always do. I would expect that in a couple of years' time, perhaps, by the time Le Mans is celebrating its 100th anniversary, there will be a really wonderful selection of hypercars and these new classes. Because of course the GT. Oh, he spun it!
Oh no!
He spun it,
and
that's
goes,
frightened himself.
He's got to pick it up, though.
Goes, well, he should be able to pick it up then.
I think he's lost the engine.
Mark Higson, I think, may not have kept the clutch depressed there.
He's got
Has
it
he underway again?
Now,
Oh, well done, that man. Well, he's pressed all the right buttons.
I remember seeing him race March 761. I think he's got in Masters.
Yes, well, he had that car
for a long time,
and he sold it, but he only sold it after it had appeared at the launch of the famous Williams documentary film in London's West End. It was a big launch night for it, and because the car that Mark used to own, this Mark Higson who we're looking at now, was the original Frank Williams Racing Mark 761.
After Frank split from Walter Wolf, and so they
started again.
Patrick Neve was the driver, the Belgian.
And Patrick Head fiddled with the march a little bit and made it work again, didn't he?
And then he designed the Williams FW06 that I launched in what had been a carpet warehouse with about 25 people there. But we did have visuals there, and the pictures went around the world. And that was pre-ground effects, but it was a supercar FW06.
Oh yes, indeed it was. There you see, ladies and gentlemen, you are able to hear stories from the era that Masters Historic Formula One cars is all about, because Andrew was actually there, at the press conferences and there with the television camera in his day.
A later Williams we launched in the factory. We had a smoke machine and an ice machine, and when we did the rehearsal, it was a bit underwhelming. So I told the boys running it to crank it up a bit. When we did the actual launch, the garage, it was in a workshop, and we actually you pulled on a chain and the garage door came up, and all you could see was the smoke and the ice, whatever. And Terry Bootson and Riccardo Patrese literally came out of this smoke, trying to sort of brush it out of their face with their arms, and then the crowd couldn't see it because all this smoke and stuff drifted into the audience. It's all in the book, coming out in October.
Coming out in October. Yeah. Andrew Marriott's Tales from the Grid and Tales from the Great History of Racing. Here we go.
Yeah.
I think this is on his last lap now, don't you? There's 1 minute left to run in this race.
Well,
if he times himself, or he may have to do another lap. Steve Tandy now back with a 2-3 seconds, not much more than that.
No.
Over here, the second car, Alex Lynn. Alex Lynn, I said.
We always do that, don't we?
Fathers and sons.
What time did he do, Chris, in the quality? What was his pole?
1:23, almost flat, and he's just done a 1:23.4.
Yeah,
so he's.
It shows how much he's on it, doesn't he?
Steve wanted to catch up again, didn't he? He's 40 seconds to go. He's going to have to do another lap. We are on the final lap, ladies and gentlemen, of this 40-minute Masters Endurance Legends race. Which has allowed us to see some of the fascinating Le Mans and American sports car, IMSA, race cars of the last decade.
Steve, no spring chicken, is he? I think is he in his 60s, I think?
I think he is, and he's driving better than ever, and he really loves these cars. And, you know, the full aero, I tell you what, Sean Lynn is closing in on him to a considerable extent. What was 2 seconds is now 100 metres.
Wow. Well, has he got a problem? Is he playing to the crowd a bit?
Well, presumably he's on the radio to Pete, who prepares his cars so nicely.
Yeah. So Sean, of course, has been racing that Peugeot as well from 12 years ago, hasn't he?
Indeed. And Sean also has got himself a Le Mans Bentley, the proper 2002 car, which he bought when Bentley decided to sell off their collection.
Oh, yes, he raced it onto the Classic, didn't he?
He raced it at Silverstone, and that's a fabulous car. So here we have Steve Tandy coming up to the line, but it's...
this is a...
Sean Lynn is now just 50 metres behind.
No, it doesn't look like it, does he?
And Steve Tandy, I think, is going to make it to the line. But that's a very nice finish.
Yeah.
A fascinating collection of cars. I hope you've enjoyed that. Fastest lap by Sean Lynn, 1:23.462. And that is faster than he went in qualifying by a little margin. So Sean Lynn showing he's no mug, very nicely driven.
Yep.
He's obviously been listening to his sons, who are both professional racers now, telling Dad what to do.
Yeah.
Mike Newton is due to cross the line in what should be a sensible third place.
Very happy with that, won't he?
Mark Higson has crossed the line.
Yeah.
So what has happened to Mike Newton, who has not crossed the line, I'm sorry to say? What's happened to him then?
No.
The little Ligier's come across the line. That's David Price in the Lola.
Was that Newton just then?
But he's not showing as having crossed the line. We're now waiting for the winner of the GT class. There, coming across the line, Richard Mines in the Aston Martin, and he has held off Richard Cook, who was having, I think, very much an early run for him in the big and very powerful Riley and Scott.
So it's showing Newton a lap down, so was everybody lapped?
Oh, right, he's just, thank you very much.
That's it.
He crosses the line, and he is allowed to be third. Sorry, I thought we must have lost him.
He wasn't lapped.
He wasn't lapped.
No,
he was the last unlapped car, and that's why he was so much
well. Excellent result from Mike Newton. And flashing the lights by Sean Lynn. And one race to go this afternoon.
We have got something really exciting for you.
Certainly have.
What a wonderful afternoon of contrast, Andrew. We went from carbon fibre McLaren MP41s to MGBs to the this race, and I think we're about to see the full results here, which will show us. So Steve Tandy then 26 laps in his 40 minutes, including some very quick laps in the 123s from Sean Lynn. Mike Newton in the car he's owned since he paid for it to be built in the first place. Ron Maiden and Craig Davis in the Ligier LMP3 car. Mark Hickson does make it across the line despite his spin. And David B is D for Brise, B-R-I-S-E, in the Lola B090, a nice car. Richard Mines wins the GT class. Richard Cook gets to the finish in the Riley and Scott Mark 3C. Colin Sauter in that Ferrari, beautiful Ferrari. And Simon Watts in the little Lola SR2 car in 10th place. Mike Furness in 11th, and that was Marcus Jewell this time out in the Porsche 996, which Ben Klukas will drive, we understand, tomorrow. Colin Payton in the Moser, as we know, sadly in the wall, and Greg Thornton and Chris Atkinson, when it was Greg Thornton driving the car, and went out very early in the Orica. So there we are, a nice result. Some very, very pretty cars out on track.
Oh, don't push it out there.
Yeah, I was about to say.
About to collect it by the winner.
Very near. No, it's David Bryce's car in the other Lola. But they're all saying, no, well, you made me stall now and I can't get round the corner.